Welcome, everyone. I'm so excited to be back with you all on Heaven on Earth. I have one of my favorite people, teachers, guides, friends on with me today. And she's a really important person for me, both for my spiritual journey and just on the journey of life, I would say. So I can't wait to introduce my dear friend Michelle. And a
Exactly.
lot a lot of the work that I've done with Michelle actually really connected me to this theme of heaven on earth. I would say like the first expression of it almost for me. And one more thing I'd love to share before I introduce you more is that I met Michelle in a really interesting way. I had just moved into a new apartment in Tel Aviv, and I think it was around December 2020, 2019. And I had just moved into a new place on Lillenbloom. And in December 2019, I went to a winter solstice retreat. It was the first time I went to anything like that with our dear mutual friend, also named Maxine. And on that retreat, something awakened in me. The way I refer to it, it was an outdoor earth-based retreat, and we did all these beautiful spiritual practices. It was very priestess energy, very connected to the earth. And I refer to it as like my inner wild woman awakened. And shortly after that retreat, in some Facebook group, I saw an advertisement for a meditation course Michelle was offering. And it was a very bold invitation. It was there to teach a style of meditation that allows you to connect to your spirit guides. And I remember feeling scared and excited all at once. I remember reading it and some dots connecting, like something clicking. The way I would describe it is something I had always known, but I never consciously thought about. I never had any experiences consciously with my spirit guides, but something clicked and I was scared and excited. And then I saw that it was down the street. It was a few blocks away. And that's how we met. It was a very clear yes. I'm curious if you remember. It was also a very special time if you didn't put the pieces together. I'm pretty sure the course started in January 2020 and we followed through into the pandemic together.
Well, you know what? I don't really remember when it was. I have a vision of the course and where, but the dates I'm always like, yeah, when was that? So I don't remember the dates, but I remember it was in beautiful Shraddha Yoga Studio, and we had a beautiful group. There was 12 of us, and it was the journey to connect with our guides and meditation and chakras. And I remember meeting you then.
I I remember a few things. I remember the pandemic started, and I don't know if the yoga studio closed, but we did one of the evenings actually in my apartment, in my home. I don't know if you remember that, which was
I
down the
do. Yeah,
street.
we did. I think that's right. That's right. That must have been towards the end. I think we did one of the last ones in your home because I think maybe the studio was shut. That's right.
I have one more funny memory. So the way that Michelle guided the class was that we'd sit and we'd meditate. And I'll also say when I saw the course, I had practiced different meditations like Deepak Chopra meditations and other styles, but I didn't feel I was going so deep. And so something appealed to me in practicing with a teacher. And it really did open something big up in me. I think you and I can both attest to that. But the other funny memory I have is like the course must have been 8 sessions, and the first two, three, maybe even 4 sessions. So the way it was structured is that we'd gather in the studio, we'd drop in, Michelle would guide us in this meditation, and people would connect to their guides. And literally, people would share these stories about like Dumbledore and all these characters and running on the beach. And with these animals. And I like my cynical New York voice would just be laughing. I felt like I was Seinfeld after hearing everyone's stories. And I wasn't yet trusting what I saw. I couldn't see so clearly. I think at some point you even said to me, okay, you need to stop with the humor and just really, I feel there was maybe the fear or the resistance. And sure enough, it took me some time, maybe midway through the course or towards the end, I started to open up more. I just wanted to share that in service of
Mhm.
how far I've come. Like I drop in so quickly and immediately now. I love your guidance and I love guided meditation in general, but I go on many, many journeys on my own and um yeah, wow, what a game changer for me.
Oh, amazing. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, it was it was a special cause and special. Yeah, and I do remember now you're reminding me. I remember the cynicism for sure because it was very new to you, and it was pretty out there. Also, even in that time, still people were still not really, connecting to their guides yet or doing this kind of work. It's still fairly now, now it's a little bit more talked about, a lot more talked about, I guess.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it was very fantastical in a way, and I think that I've always had the capacity for magic and imagination. It's funny, I don't have so many memories from when I was young, but I have a very clear memory of being in fourth grade, maybe fourth or fifth grade, and our teacher giving us an assignment to use our imagination. And I remember going up to my teacher and saying, but I don't have an imagination. And
Hmm.
my teacher was like, everybody has an imagination. And I remember it so clearly. And, I grew up in New York with immigrant parents who went through a lot to build this 3D world. And I was great at math. I was great at many things, but it's so funny for me because actually, I really just want to speak into the power of our imagination and the how fantastical the journeys you guide are, and also give you credit for really owning your gift and putting it out there. Like when I read that advertisement for the class, it scared me. You're right, there wasn't a ton of stuff out there like that. Even with the practitioners I was working with, they weren't giving the full 100, and you went out there with the full 100% of what you were offering and what your gifts are, and it's still a journey.
Yeah, it's still a journey, and it's still quite a fantastical journey for a lot of people. And interestingly enough, at school, I got on one of my reports, my English report, I got Michelle has a very lively imagination, and that wasn't necessarily a good thing at the time. So, but it's funny looking back now. And my parent, I found this report quite recently, and it was just like, wow, it's so interesting because obviously as a child, I was in my imagination a lot, and I didn't even really know that until I looked at that on my English report. So it was quite funny. But at the time, it
That's
was like, yeah, you're not really supposed to have an imagination, until, after a certain age, that's like cut off the imagination, let's get into the mind. And then we're really, disencouraged to imagine, to fantasize, to create, and this is where this is part of our creative, this is part of how we create through our imagination and how we connect with our guides and how we do so many things. It's a very important part of our spiritual journey.
yeah, that's so beautiful that you remember that feedback. And if you guys haven't guessed already from her beautiful accent, Michelle was born in the UK and grew up there. I'm sure there's a lot of rigidity and rules around behavior in that land.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was a very English, strict upbringing. Yeah, and definitely not spiritual at all.
And I actually wasn't planning to go into it so much, but now that you shared that memory, do you have a lot of spiritual experiences from your childhood? Did you always feel connected?
Um, Actually, I don't really remember having spiritual experience as a child, no. But oddly enough, I mean, I started this journey very young, when I was like in my early 20s. And I grew up in a very traditional Jewish family. We didn't talk about spirituality. We went to synagogue. We did very, very traditional. So I always kind of joke because remember buying this book on how to connect to your spirit guides. I've actually got it here. It's like a very old book. And I don't even know why I would have bought that book or where I even heard about these things. There's something that's missing in my memory. Maybe one day it will come back as to why I even was so interested in this journey so young, with actually zero influence. And this is, a few years ago. But so it's really interesting. But as a child, I think I was a very hypersensitive child, and I think I probably did. I was probably very aware, and I was probably super sensitive, but I don't remember. So
It
this
wasn't
journey came to me
conscious.
later, and it wasn't conscious. No.
Yeah, you had your journey of awakening.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just want to share a name because Michelle has been a really big expander for me in tapping into my gifts. And so I want to share, like, I was in my 30s already when this started, and now, my close friends and people connected to me know that I am very connected to spirit, to my guides, to my higher self. I'm in my late 30s, but I feel I move through the world between worlds. And I've really been able to integrate a higher perspective in the higher realms with life on earth and my human self. And that's actually really the point of heaven on earth is to share that possibility and tools and that opportunity for everyone listening. I have one more question I want to ask you before we get into some of the meat. And maybe actually to orient people, there is going to be some meat, whether you're a vegetarian or not. We're going to get into what I want to call like a little bit of an explainer conversation about some big topics to break them down and make them more accessible for you all. So we'll do a bit of that. And then you definitely want to stay till the end because Michelle has very graciously offered to connect to her guides and channel for us. We'll explain it and we'll get into it more, but Michelle is very connected and very guided, and she's one of the highest integrity channelers and teachers I've worked with. And so that'll be a sweet treat that we'll have at the end. And then there'll be some other conversations in between, but there's going to be a meaty portion. And then we're actually going to delve into heaven on earth a little bit more. But before we get into all that, one more thing I wanted to ask on the same topic of imagination and reflecting on my journey working with you and my cynicism and that it took a lot of trust and courage and a bit of persistence for me to open up. You've done that with and for so many people. I feel I've sent you friends. I feel you can work with anyone almost. What do you typically see on people's journeys? I'm sure some people open up quickly, some people take more time. Do you have any reflections on that, on imagination, and just for people who are new to connecting with their guides?
Yeah, I mean, it's always really interesting, especially when I do that that class. So that's the first workshop that I did. And I got invited to a workshop to connect with my guides and angels with my teacher in Los Angeles when I was living there, Jason Nelson. I was invited to this class, and I was also just really excited, but a little terrified. And he used to say, it is your imagination. And people said, oh, it might, because, and this is a com, common thing that people say in my classes too. Oh, it's just my imagination. He'd always say, no, it's not just your imagination. It is your imagination. This is how we connect. So over the years, it is hard for people to connect to their imagination, and it's hard for people to actually believe their imagination. That's the main issue. It's like just in my imagination, but the imagination is our tool for visioning. It's our tool for seeing our guides. So this is kind of the common complaint. Or if, when we do, I don't know if you remember, also everybody used to share their visions at the end of the class, and we'd have a share, and then everybody would be like, but I didn't see anything, but, and then they'd explain these incredible visions they saw, and I'd be like, yes, that's real.
Totally.
Uh, so that was and that's that always happens in that class. Like I didn't say anything, but it was this, and there was this, and there was this, and I was like, yeah, this is your imagination. This is what you're seeing. So it just takes that kind of shift in. in kind of understanding that even though it's in our imagination, we've been told our imagination is just something that children do to play, we play in our imagination, but this is how we envision other worlds. This is how we envision our guides. This is how we see. This is our third eye, is through our third eye, which is our imagination. And our third eye is our ability to go beyond seeing the physical realm that we have, this table, this chair, so this is the imagination. The imagination is for us to use, to see, to envision, to see beyond what we're able to see in this in our physical dimension.
Right. And do you ever have students? So I know, for example, when we think about tapping into these gifts, there's clairvoyance, there's clairaudience, there's clairsentience. Do you have students that are less visual, or do most, if not all, see to receive messages?
Actually, no, I've had some students who don't see at all. And it's actually, I can't remember the name of it, but actually there's a name for it. People who can't see, who can't envision.
Yes.
Um, yeah,
I have a
I don't know what,
friend who has that. I don't remember the name either.
yeah. So it's interesting, but what I teach people is all the intuitive abilities, the feeling, seeing, hearing, and knowing. So obviously we have more than the seeing. So if people can't see, then they can tap, more into their feeling sense or their knowing. So we have all these senses that we can use. So there is, yeah, some people are really good feelers. Some people have the knowing and they just know something. Some people, they walk into a room and they feel everything immediately. So we can use other senses, but I do believe everybody can develop their seeing, even though, there are blocks to seeing. And I think the seeing is often the hardest for a lot of people because it is, again, you have to go into your imagination.
Right, it's so fantastical, and we associate
Uh,
that and the imagination with childhood and the sort of immature way of seeing things when actually it's only associated with childhood because children are more full spectrum and haven't had that sort of taken away from them yet.
As I was saying, yes, I mean, like, like the school report, Michelle has a lively imagination as if it was, something that wasn't, not a good thing. So, but if children are encouraged to continue their imagination, to keep their imagination open, and as many other, as, all our abilities, this world would be very different.
Yeah, in a way, we'd be less disintegrated, we'd be less fragmented, we'd be more whole when we're able to tap into that. And I can explain it in so many ways. It's partly right, like the left brain is the linear, the left brain is linear, rational, logic are inner masculine, and the right brain is the more feminine, um, collective, collaborative, chaotic. So it's also really us cutting off from the right brain, the creative. I have another funny memory, something I'd often say. I went to business school and then I went into entertainment after my MBA. I was at NBC Universal. I was working with all different people throughout the company, but we'd often talk about the creatives and the suits. And I was a suit. I was on the business side. So the suits and the creatives, I mean, you use that lingo in the industry. And after a while, I think as I was approaching 30 and I was a little disillusioned and not totally happy with where I was, I started to say that I'm a creative trapped in a suit's body. And actually, it's a conversation for another time, but in my human design, well, it's not totally, but if you work with tools and modalities like human design, you can look at our left orientation and our right orientation, and it's different at the level of the body and at the level of the mind. But I don't actually want to get too far into that. I did want to offer one more way of thinking about the visuals and the meditation from my own journey of trust and stepping into it. The way I understand it is when we connect to the higher realms, spirit, our guides, it can be ancestors, it can be deities, it can be even younger, different versions of ourselves. How you could describe it is spirit is energy that's not contained in a body anymore. So when we connect to those higher realms and that energy, we receive the messages in the English language, or we receive the messages if we're hearing something in the English language often, or if we're seeing something, it's our imagination. But what they're transmitting is really light, right? They're transmitting light, they're transmitting a knowing. It's really beyond the English language sometimes and beyond what we're seeing. It's just coming down in a version. We're receiving it as the imagination or visual because that's how our mind actually can really engage with it. Is that a fair way to describe some of the mechanics?
Um, yeah, I mean that, yeah, we're getting visuals that we can relate to. Absolutely. Yes. Even like spirit, they come to us in a form that we can relate to. Absolutely. But yes, we're receiving, frequencies. We're receiving, yeah, it's really a frequency that we're receiving, light that we're receiving. But we're also receiving images that, that we can connect to, that can help us healing. So the images and what we see are very important. And again, that's why we have the imagination that, that obviously we are we are seeing mirrors of what our world looks like, right?
Right,
Yes, we're seeing things that we can relate to in our world because that's what our world looks like.
right. And I just wanted to make that point because part of that journey of trusting is not seeing everything as so black and white, but just being open enough to receive and receive in the way that works for you. There's no right or wrong here. It's just a journey of opening up, really like, right, we're opening up the crown chakra to receive a message, guidance, a frequency, both from our higher selves, our soul aspect, I would say, and other support.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly.
I think we're actually naturally going into the explainer section. I wanted to speak with Michelle and really tap into her wisdom and teachings to break down some big topics. So the first one is, who are our guides? What are they? What are we even talking about? How would you describe this mechanically? What's happening?
Um, so before we come here, we are a soul. Okay, so we are a soul in another realm, in another dimension. And as a soul, our soul journey is to evolve, right? This is what our soul wants to evolve. And it chooses different places to reincarnate, to evolve. And one of the places we choose to reincarnate to really expand is to come to this Earth School, which is one of the most challenging of places to visit as we understand living here. But we need help. We need some help because we can't, once we get here, we can't see anything. Our vision is gone, our intuition is gone. We were kind of born and we forget everything. But before we come here, we have had a conversation with other non-physical beings who decide that we decide together they're going to be our guides. They're going to be our spiritual guides on this path, on this journey. So we have a meeting with them. Um, they might have been other, if we have reincarnated, which most of us have to this earth many times, they can be people that we've incarnated on this planet with, or they can be higher beings who haven't actually had a physical experience. It really depends where we are on our path. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and when you say higher beings, we're starting to speak about what I would describe as a hierarchy of angels, right?
Yeah, angels, ascended masters. Yeah, there's many different sort of levels of beings that are guiding us. Even as far as kind of we can even go even further into sort of galactic beings, but maybe we won't go too far there. But yes, different angels, archangels, and ascended masters.
Great.
And as I said, some are souls that have gone through a process and now they've become guides, right? They're not necessarily ascended masters, but they have been evolved enough, and now they're like, okay, I've graduated. Now I can be a guide for you. on this.
How would you describe ancestors? So, for example, I believe that when we lose a loved one, oftentimes they can be very present in our field. There's different expressions of that. But for me, one of my ancestors, one of my grandparents, who I was pretty close to as a kid, I started to see him show up with my guides after he had sometime after he passed away, and I used to connect to him in those places and forums alongside my guides.
Yeah, often that our grandparents or ancestors come back as our guides, absolutely. Not always, but they also, they can, we have our team of guides, and then our grandparents or ancestors can be part of that team. And again, depending on what their soul's chosen, what they've decided to do. But often when I do these groups and I invite people to connect to their guides, very often grandparents are the first people that come through, because they obviously they're familiar, they feel safe with them. And so grandparents are very often the first ones to come through as guides. And again, they can have different, some grandparents or some relatives will come in and they'll be very strong guides, and that's what they've chosen before they've even come to this earth, that they are going to pass this time, and they will come back as your guide. Um, so again, it's a very individual path. It really depends on the soul's journey, the soul's choices. But yes, often we have ancestors that are available as guides, and some that are chosen as guides.
And I want to add, because I've learned about this journey onto Earth through so many different traditions, but people like Plato, right? Plato wrote about this, about the river of forgetting, right? We drink from this river to forget all the contracts we made and all of our agreements and all of our power, all of our gifts before we come to this earth. And it's been written about in so many different traditions. I think it's wonderful that I don't know if it's Plato's Republic. I actually think maybe it's a different one of his texts. He is in the canon of Greek philosophers and writers, but still in the collective, we haven't accepted this wisdom or this perspective on life.
No, we haven't. Because, we came here and we've been programmed to be very physical. And we came here and we forgot. And our journey, we're really on a journey of re-remembering. I mean, we knew we were going to forget. We were told, okay, we're going to, this is all, you're going to forget when you're born. We knew this. We know that we're forgetting again, that we will forget. But our journey is to remember who we are, remember our soul, remember our journey, remember our gifts. Remember that we have guides. Whenever I connect people with their guides, it's actually something people often just get extremely emotional. They just, because it's just a remembering, it's a familiarity. It's like, wow. So it's not, yeah, it's a remembering. It's not new, but,
Right. It's an aspect of ourselves, our soul selves, if you want to call it that. And when we speak about awakening, when we use that word, we are awakening this remembrance, remembering, right? Becoming whole again. We're awakening this higher consciousness that we can access should we choose to, if we feel called to it, or should we choose to do this practice, this work. One more thing I want to add, how would you frame this idea of our higher selves? Because I would almost always see my higher self when I'd connect with my guides.
mm. um, well, the higher self is really the most important thing to connect to. This is our higher version of ourselves, our higher self, our highest perspective, our expanded version of ourselves. So, um, you know, we connect basically as we expand our consciousness, we begin to access our higher self. So it's always good to really go to your higher self first, and then your guides. Your guides are like, also there to support us, but really, we are here to live from our higher selves. This is actually probably one of the most important things that we need to do is learn how to connect to our higher self and live from that place.
Right, in many ways, that is heaven, the calling of heaven on earth. And I actually remembered the other thing I wanted to add a few things. One is our higher self, some aspect of ourself does remember. And our
Hmm.
higher self, when we connect to our higher self and our guides, they're there to give us guidance to remember, okay, we had this contract. Okay, this was our dream. Actually, our dreams are a beautiful way of remembering and feeling guided. I'm not just speaking about our dreams at night. I mean, more so the dreams we have of what we want to experience in this life, whether they're romantic, relational, creative, work. Those are clues. Some aspect of ourselves remember. But the big thing I really want to name, and I've been on a long journey with this, is divine timing. This idea that we're exactly where we need to be, and different people awaken at different moments, and that is perfectly okay. There is a divine timing, and that's something I've practiced and studied and been guided to learn or master. And then, as I've shared previously, I've done deep work in training in archetypal astrology. And as I've studied the stars and the cosmos and the cycles, I have so much more awe and respect and remembrance even of divine timing. And so sometimes when you're on this journey, your human self can get a little judgmental, or I know for me, the people close to me, I want everyone to be on the same journey, on the same schedule with me, and it doesn't work like that. There is divine timing, and that is the beauty and the magic and the perfection of this universe and our life experience while we're spinning around, right, the solar system and the galaxy on this rock.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And I love the word that you said, clues, because that's exactly it. We're given clues along the way. It's a game. This is really the game of life. The spirit will drop in clues. It will drop in things for us to remember. Now, if we're walking along like this, yeah, we're not going to remember. And then at some point, if people really need to wake up and they're not noticing the clues, then unfortunately they'll have something that will be a real wake up call. So when people, have a very difficult challenge come into their life, that is in order to wake them up because they haven't been looking at the
Yes.
clues. So we're given clues, all the time. It's just whether we notice them or not. And those noticing of the clues, that's where we start to awaken.
So important. The way I think about it is that there are breadcrumbs and clues, and just as you said, when we're not paying attention, there can be more shocking events, oftentimes loss or a medical experience for you or a loved one. That's what it was for me. That really woke me up. Yeah, there's a lot more we could say about that. One more thing I will add is it is a game and it can be fun. And we were talking about this the other day that our guides and spirit has humor. If we're taking ourselves and this journey too seriously, like, not that there's right or wrong, but we're not doing it right. Um, really, like, we're here to have a levity and a lightness. When you access your higher self, it is a levity and a lightness, and it's not a coincidence that levity and lightness have that dual meaning of light and of not taking things too seriously or not experiencing as much burden or heaviness. I know it depends what chapter or phase you're in, but I think actually our ability, and I feel this in my own life, our ability to use humor, express humor, tap into humor. Humor is one of the most alchemical practices or tools rather on this earth. And actually my grandfather, who appears to me as a guide very often, he had an impeccable humor and wit to him, and his timing was always would change the entire energy in the room. And I feel that's something I've inherited, and I'm just consciously honoring that I received that from him, activating it into my life. We both teach courses. I'm going to talk a little bit more about Michelle's course later, but both of the work that we do is about energetic self-mastery. And actually, humor is a part of energetic self mastery. More interesting concepts or more sophisticated concepts, I can say. But humor and also the emotional landscape is a big part of that. And that might be a great transition into the chakra system. And I love that you have that beautiful artwork behind you that I'm staring at
Yeah.
of the chakras and the colors, and the rainbow, right, is connected to the chakras.
Yeah, the
Oh,
colors are absolutely.
Yeah, and a big part of the meditation course I took with you and the way you teach meditation is about the chakra system. I like to think about really our journey of awakening often involves less external focus and going within.
Yeah,
So when we
absolutely.
go within and we start to connect to these other aspects of ourselves, we start to pay attention to the clues, we start to be in relationship with our senses and what we're feeling. The chakras are our map in some respects. So, do you want to share some of your wisdom or architecture, how you think of the chakras, how it relates to connecting with your guides?
Yeah, and as you said, it is a map, is an energetic map. So we have this system that um, that guides us through our life. You know, from our root when we're born, our grounding, our earth, our first years. It's such an incredible system, actually, because it's so uh, illogical how it all works. But you know, we go up from the root, our early years, into the sacral, which is where we find our creativity and our passion for life, our emotional center, where we can really, where we draw our passion from, right, from our emotions, how we're feeling, up through our solar plexus, which is our power center and the place where we take action, where we find our worth, and into the heart center, which is our balance point. So the heart is the balance between the physical chakras, and the more spiritual etheric chakras. So we go up from the heart to the throat chakra. The heart obviously is about love, about passion, unconditional love, and balance actually. And again, this is the heart chakra is where we balance the upper worlds and the lower world, the physical realm and the spiritual realm. And we move up into the throat chakra, which is how we communicate, how we express ourselves, how we bring this creativity up through the body, and we can express it out into the world. Again, frequency, vibration, and we continue up into the imagination, right? So then we start opening our imagination, opening our intuition, our vision, and continuing up to the crown chakra, which connects us with our higher self, the upper realms, and our guides. Now, these are the basic seven chakras. In the last few years, you know, I've moved into working with the 12 chakras, which are another, the fifth dimensional chakra system. And then we're moving up now into 15 chakras and on and on and on. There are many chakras that we're discovering as our consciousness rises as we awaken. But the chakra system is really a guide for us. And it also holds all our stories, it holds all our programs within this system. So it's very important on this journey to understand your chakras, to know what you're holding in your chakras, what stories are in there, what energy is there. And we really, in order to expand and to grow, we have to clear our chakras. We have to go through this system, this energetic system, in order to clear our programs and understand ourselves, essentially.
I
Um,
love that. That's a very succinct delivery of extremely magical system, tool, and map for our lives here. I want to sprinkle in some more to what you shared. So, when we think about the seven chakras in the body, right, the root is at the base of the spine. It's what we
yeah,
traditionally see as red. It's tribal. It's our connection to the earth. It's the most dense, earthy, tribal bonds connections. On the other side of the spectrum in the body is the crown on top of the head, which opens up to the heavens. We often imagine a lotus flower there. It's very spiritual. It's the most spiritual part of self. So, a few things I'll add as we delve in. Um, okay. So, one thing I'll add or actually really emphasize is that these points along from the root up to the crown hold material. So, Michelle started to describe that. Our programs are in these places. So, each of these points connect to our physical body. So, the root, right, the base of the spine, the pelvis, the sacral, the womb space. And so it's actually a very cool guide to connect the physical and the physicality of our bodies to energy. So what are we storing here? What programs are we storing here? What memories are we storing here? What emotions? Often people talk about emotions as, right, energy and motion getting trapped in the body. We can use the chakras and working with each of them and even working with the colors to do healing
Absolutely.
work, to, as you already said, to grow our consciousness, to heal, to ascend, to actually bring down higher aspects of ourselves into this mapping in a way. I feel I did a ton of work and a ton of healing when I opened up my third eye and my crown in the guided meditations with my guides and other guided meditations. All that also obviously activating the throat chakra, opening that up. I know for me, a big theme in this lifetime was opening up my throat, feeling sovereign in my throat. Actually, this podcast is a big part of that in a really beautiful way. So, really connecting the physicality, and I love it because it's so much of heaven on earth is merging the energetic, the spiritual realm, the heavenly, the higher self on this ground, onto this earth, right? Embodied in, as you said so beautifully, in the heart chakra, this integration of both, but we feel it along the points, along the body, even beyond the body with these new chakras. And the last thing I wanted to say about it is we can also think about it as our aura, right? So when we start to orient ourselves internally to what's happening in our bodies, our senses, our chakras, we can think about us moving through the world and the energy field around us. So we're not just a physical body, but we're carrying energy when we walk into a room, when we get together with family. What energy are we carrying? What's alive in the field? For me, I haven't talked about it too much yet, but my business is the power within. It's very connected to the solar plexus chakra, as you said, just below the heart, the seat of our power. But it's really about when we orient to what's happening inside of us and activate this energy field, when we walk into a room with our aura, we can choose, we can consciously choose to bring energy, bring light, bring power, bring whatever it is that's alive that we want to bring forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think another point is that, it connects to everything in that. Again, if we have physical symptoms, we can often go into the chakras and find out if, I often find people that if they've got a lot of stomach issues, and I'm like, okay, we're going, then we've got obviously solar plexus, that's digestion. We've got lung issues, we've got heart, and we've got, everything is also connected to our physical body. So and the elements. We've got the earth, water, fire elements, and air elements. So there's so many aspects of the chakras, which, as you said, they encompass all of our life, all of our experiences, and that affects our auric fields.
One of the big books that was part of my transformation journey is by the spiritual author Caroline Myss, Anatomy of the Spirit. It's an older book, and she goes into each of the chakras and she does connect those dots also with the physical organs and the body. I know when I teach about the solar plexus in my leadership course around our power, the solar plexus actually is a biological term for a ganglia of nerves that lives in that part of our body. And it's very much where we feel our emotions. It's in a medical textbook. So there is this beautiful map and this incredible intelligence and this connectivity that already exists. We just don't often learn about it. Sometimes, right, you have to find the right teacher or book or experience to awaken to it.
Yeah, and actually, you asked me originally about the connection with the chakras and the guides, and I learnt the chakras first of all. Well, I think I also found a book by a CD, I think at the time, or a CD, I think it was a CD by oh gosh, what's her name now? Spiritual teacher, that she had this book on the chakras. So I bought that. And then my teacher, when we were learning how to connect to our guides, how we'd learn to connect to our guides is by clearing the chakras. So that was my first experience with the chakras. And that's why I continue to do that, because we need a clear vessel, we need a clear channel. right? And so without our chakras being clear, it's very hard to be a clear channel. So that's how I learned. That's how I started with the chakras, is by clearing our chakras, going through the chakras in order to expand into a place where we can connect with our guides.
Wow, that's very important. I want to linger on that point for a minute because when I meditate with you, you often integrate that, and that's always been how I learned in our practice. But I want to zoom in a little bit on that point because what's happening when we're clearing our chakras, right? We talked about programs and beliefs and maybe even wounds or unprocessed experiences living there. But if we get together and do a meditation and we clear out that vessel, that channel through our chakras, what it tells me is that we're carrying also more short-term stuff, other people's energy. It's not necessarily the deep work, but it's almost like hygiene, right? There's a reason we feel so amazing after we take a shower. There's a reason we have the best thoughts in the shower because we're cleansing and clearing, especially the crown, right? So I really do want to emphasize that.
Yeah, absolutely. This is it. Again, it's like it's like filters, it's like car. If we don't clean the filters of the car, everything's getting clogged up. So that's what they are. They're filters. And as you said, it's not just our stuff. It's our family stuff, it's our friend stuff. It's just we can walk out in the world. We're like, we just bring in other people's energy, and just energy around us. So we have to clear the filters. Yeah, absolutely. And yes, it's not necessarily all the deeper stuff. We have to go into that in another way. But yes, before we meditate, we want to connect to our guide, clear the filters. That's energetic hygiene, clear our chakras so that we can be a clearer channel. Because we
I
can't
love
really, this
that.
is a channel. This is literally our channel, right? So if our channel is clogged, we're not going to get clear answers. We're not going to be able to connect to our higher self. We're not going to be able to get the visions that we want, the answers that want, the intuitions that we need. Because this is the idea, right? It's the game of life that if everything's clogged up and we can't see anything, then we don't know the direction. So the clearer we are, the clearer our direction is. Instead of going from A to D to B, we go like this. We can just go from A to B. And again, the clearer our channel, the easier it is to move through our lives.
Right. And actually, another layer to that, which I'd love to go into, is we can't access the higher dimensions, the higher versions of self until we clear up what's being clogged. And I think it's funny because as you
Absolutely.
were speaking, I was thinking about this hygiene and this clearing and thinking about how it's become so popular now to burn sage or burn Palo Santo. And it's the same idea, right? We're cleaning our field or our aura. Actually, I started a practice with sage and Palo Santo. Sometimes I take it through each of my chakras. And then I also add the intention to clear out anything that I don't need. And sometimes I'll personalize it to the chakra, like my voice, when I burn something around there. And so I want to give that framework because it's the same thing, and somehow the sage has become really popularized. I want the chakra cleansing and clearing to be as popular.
Yeah, absolutely. So important. Yeah, it's really important.
Really, I felt the power from you as you were speaking about clearing our channel to be a vessel, to channel, right? This is our channel, to receive guidance. But for me, it really is accessing higher dimensions, higher parts of self, higher fields. Together, we can break down this idea. Do you want to take a stab at it about the dimensions? I'll set it up for you in that we think about the world as 3D. Even in physics, we talk about the 4D exists in physics, in science, in the linear, in the logical. So, how does that transcend or connect to the spiritual idea of dimensions?
So the spiritual idea of dimensions is that, this physical, the very physical dimension is the third dimension, as you said. That is physicality. This table is solid. That chair is solid. There isn't anything else other than what we're seeing in our physical reality. I can see that. I can see that. That's the physical realm, right? There's nothing else, right? No spirituality. It's just the solid. as we clear, as we expand our consciousness, we move up realms. Okay, we'll move into the fourth dimension, which we start to understand, okay, maybe there is something else, or maybe maybe there are guides, maybe there is other things other than what we're seeing here in this physical realm. So this is part of the awakening, part of the wake up. Um, and we are here to move up through these dimensions, out of the third, out of the physical, to start understanding that we're more than just the physical body, we're more than just this physical table, and that we are spirit, we are soul, we are energy. Right? This comes back to the energy. And as we expand this, our physical, actually right now we're changing from carbon into crystalline as we expand. So actually our physicality actually changes as we expand, as we grow our consciousness, and we move up into the fifth dimension, right? The fifth dimension is, a lot of people are talking about the fifth dimension, and the fifth dimension is heaven on earth, where we are actually moving out of the mind, out of the physical reality, and more into the heart-based reality, more into, we're less dense, we're less physical. We're still physical, but we're less physical. We're less worried about, the solid, and more aware of the other dimensions, there's more to this world than just what we see and what meets the eye. So that's how we're kind of moving through these dimensions. We're moving out of the physical into more of the spirit realms. And with that, things start to change in our physical reality around us.
Will you say more
Uh,
about that? Like what starts to change in our how can things or what might change in our physical reality?
well, it's really perspective, right? So our perspective starts to change, and when our perspective starts to change, then we start to project a different reality, right? Because really we're projecting everything from our third eye. So when we're in this physical realm, we're in the 3D, and we're just kind of basically in the 3D, we're responding to everything around us, right? And it generally we generally see things in a more challenging way, let's say. But as we kind of awaken our consciousness, as we kind of clear our programming, clear these old stories, we start to see things differently. And when as we start to see things differently, we start to project out different things, and then we start to see the world in a different way. We start to see more beauty, more light,
Right,
more love.
right.
Does that make sense? As I'm
Yes, I'm
explaining it?
actually looking out at the trees as you're speaking and reflecting. A friend of mine shared a beautiful story on social media this week about all the gorgeous flowers blooming outside her parents' house and how she lived there for 20 years and never noticed them. And now she notices all of them. There's like a divine scent that she can smell from several feet away. And it never crossed her mind or her being before. And I really resonated with that. On my best days, when I'm in my highest or higher expression, I am in awe. I'm receiving so much from nature and the beauty around me. Even in I taught a course called the Beehive. It's a women's container. I really felt at some point like my only job that morning before I taught or whatever the day was to walk in my neighborhood and stop and smell the roses. Because the flowers and the earth hold frequency, right? It's all frequency. And actually, there's one of my favorite oracle decks is by Rebecca Campbell. It's the Rose Oracle. The rose is one of my biggest teachers, my biggest companions. She even has a flower guided meditation where you connect to your soul flower. And for me, it was the white rose. So there's a remembrance, there's a frequency that we receive from nature, from earth. And I never thought of it this way, Michelle, until you spoke into it and connected some dots for me that it is directly connected to the dimensions. And actually, when we move through the world and we take a morning walk and we feel awe and gratitude for the flowers, for the trees, for nature, we're in our heart. That is so five-dimensional. That is a
Yeah.
different, you're operating on a different plane of reality. And it's so, so beautiful. For me, heaven on earth is flowers. It is. Yeah, just the idyllic, the Garden of Eden. I connect it to divine union. I know you teach about masculine and feminine energies too, but for me, that divine union, that sacred marriage, mystical metaphor, is so much about Garden of Eden and flowers and fertile trees and
Absolutely.
fruits.
Absolutely. As
Yes.
above, so below, and again, this is it. It's what we're looking at. It's what we're looking at, what we're seeing. We can walk along, and as you said, you never see those flowers. That was a beautiful example of your friend. She never saw the flowers. It's what are we looking at? We're looking at the train crashing. We're looking at the beautiful flowers. It's where we're looking really, where we're putting our focus, where we're putting our vision, and it's all about frequency. We're living in this is a world of frequency, and we're here to raise our frequency, to expand our frequency so that we can see more. And the more we raise our frequency, the more we can see, the more beautiful our existence is. I've seen this in my own life, and I look around and I realize, wow, I'm in the 5D. I feel it, I see it because it's reflected back
Yeah.
because this is what I'm bringing my attention to. This is what I'm focusing on, and more it comes into our reality. Like we are creating our reality as we go, as we raise our frequency, as we clear our program, as we tune in more to ourselves and to our higher self, to our authenticity and who we are. So this beautiful expansion.
Yes, I feel it now. My body feels different now that I'm orienting towards the beauty, nature, what I know to be true and real energetically. I really want to try and offer this. I want to connect some more dots for anyone listening. So, one of the dots is, for example, I did more somatic therapy at certain points in my life. And in the somatic work, which soma is the body, we think about resourcing where we connect to something beautiful outside of us, like nature or trees, so that when we do want to work with something more challenging, we have that resource. And so, in a way, that's the same thing. What we're talking about is how do we fill our cups? How do we cleanse, clear? How do we access higher energetic states, right? I'm sure you're familiar with this. When I also teach my leadership course, I go through David Hawkins' map of consciousness and how different emotions carry different frequencies. So the emotion of love is one of the most powerful frequencies. By the same token, we were talking about the rose. Rose and frankincense are the highest recorded frequencies on earth. So it's the same thing, whether we're doing somatic therapy and talking about resourcing, thinking about our body, it's all actually very connected. And our body can be nourished by higher frequencies. But where it starts to get really fun is the amount of power and agency we can feel when we accept the energetic nature of life and start to work with the energy. Because a big part of what I teach in the leadership course, but I'm actually seeing in this conversation is just the journey from 3D to 5D. We can call it heart-based leadership, whatever you want to call it, is that we shift out of the experience of victimization or victimhood and into our power. It's actually the journey
Yeah,
from if you're into gene keys, it's the gene key 55 that I work with a lot. It's about sovereignty and it's the journey from victimization into freedom. And freedom is connected with our power. So even as we're having this conversation, I feel so much more energy in my body. I feel more connected to my power. I'm literally looking at the beauty. I'm in upstate New York right now. That's a conversation for another time, what I'm doing here. But I see and feel the beauty of these trees, and I feel a more trusting relationship with the universe. And the more trusting I can be, it's like I'm exiting the 3D, the survival mode and the survival orientation, which I happen to know a lot about as a woman, as a Jew, as a daughter of immigrants. I know a lot about survival. You know what? My DNA knows a lot about survival, right? My ancestors come from Iran and Israel, right? There's literally a war going on between the two lands of my ancestors. But
Yeah.
because of this work, because of this consciousness, because of this remembering, I can transcend it. I can actually not get lost in the energy of war or fear and access love. And along with accessing love, I can access my gifts and contribute more on this earth.
Yeah, absolutely. I just something that just popped in whilst you were talking. Also, it leads back to the imagination again because when I guide people through meditations and I'm getting the meditations that are channeled, so I think I'm basically saying what I'm seeing. But what our imagination does, that we can go to beautiful places, we can go into the fifth dimension, we can go into these frequencies just in our imagination in meditation, and then that moves into our cells in the body. So we actually shift our cells in the body into that frequency. So by doing these guided meditations, by imagining, we can actually shift our consciousness, we can shift ourselves, shift our reality through that. And it's I think Joe Dispenza says there's no difference between the feeling you have in your imagination and reality. It's the same thing. So if I'm in a forest, and I'm connecting to the earth and to the trees and to the ground, I'm grounding. I'm connected to the earth and trees. So I'm grounding just by envisioning a tree, by envisioning that connection.
Right. Yeah, I love that point because, like, right now I'm staring at all these trees and we're talking about something that's energetic and spiritual in some senses, but I'm actually grounding myself here on earth. Because when we go into the fifth dimension, the 5D, there isn't a split anymore. There isn't as much duality. Heaven and earth don't have to be separate. Masculine and feminine don't have to be at war. We don't have to be at war internally with ourselves, with our different parts, or externally in the world. And that's kind of why we're here, right? Now we're having the heaven on earth conversation. We're here to
Yeah, which is
transcend that
unity.
suffering. Yes.
Mhm. Yeah, we're here to come out of separation into oneness, into unity. So we lived in duality, and now we're moving out of duality into oneness, which is bringing heaven on earth. But we're not moving, we're not leaving this earth. We're bringing heaven to earth, bringing that energy down. So we're still here on this same earth, but we're just looking at it differently. We're seeing it, but we couldn't see it before. The veils are lifting, right? There's many, many veils, and as we expand, the veils lift, and we can see more beauty. We can see more heaven on earth. We can see more of this this Garden of Eden. It's here. It's actually here. It's not anywhere else. It's for us to see it, for us to remove the veils.
And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about when we talk about frequency and what we're attuning to, attunement, what frequency we're embodying, or at least we're orienting towards, and then we get to embody, it shifts the cells. It's all connected in the sense that when we choose to attune to a different higher frequency, buying flowers, when I go to the farmer's market in Santa Monica, it's usually the best day of my week because I'm surrounded by flowers, earth, fresh produce from the farm. I'm like bathing in a different frequency, in a higher realm. And I bring it into my home. And so when we choose to attune to a different frequency, it does change the nature of our reality. It changes the cells in our body. Quantum physics does discuss this. The relationship between energy, vibration, frequency, and matter. And matter can shift and change in the body and in our surroundings, right? As above, so below, as within, so without. So this is the kind of energetic mastery we both love and care about so much. And it's really hard to care about anything else once the veil is lifted and you see. And I just want to say, with the veils lifting, that's a common metaphor in spiritual language. The veil is the veil of illusion, right? The Wizard of Oz. These are very archetypal stories. the wizard behind the curtain, this idea of an all-powerful God that we can't see. And when we talk about the veils lifting, we can almost see into the, what's the right word? I'm thinking of a funny American phrase, like we can see how the sausage is made, but we really do see behind the wheel. We see behind the
Mhm.
scenes. We
Beyond the
see,
veil. Mhm.
yeah, beyond the veil. We see how the universe works in a way. We get a glimpse of it that our human selves aren't used to seeing. And I also shared this, I felt really inspired to share on social media this week. I saw a friend posted this, the biggest camera that exists on Earth was just unveiled in Chile, and it's taking the highest resolution photos of the stars and other galaxies. It's nothing that we've ever seen before. It took over 2 decades to make. Um, we're seeing things that we've never seen before. To me, that is the veil being lifted. In this share about this new, I don't even know if we can still call it a telescope. It's massive. But this new camera, let's call it, they said over the next decade, it's gonna document 18 billion. I don't know if it's galaxies, stars, I don't know what the metric was, but this is the veil lifting. It's coming into our field, whether we realize or not. So I just think it's such a special time on Earth. It's so powerful to have chosen to be here now and go on this journey of awakening into the 5D, into the world and field of energy, into our power, which goes along with it. And as Michele described, the oneness. Some people, I often refer to the 5D as unity consciousness. It is transcending a time of
Mhm.
war. And Michelle's lives in Israel, right? Our closest friends from Israel who have a 4 month baby are getting on a boat and then a plane and then another plane and are coming as refugees to stay with I'm visiting family in New York to stay with us. Like this war is very real. As I shared, it's in the lands of my ancestors, and I still really believe that the shift, the change, experiencing heaven on earth is going to happen internally in our heart space, internally in the wars that we have, the battles we have with ourselves, right? A lot of our difficult relationships can be mirrors for that, for our internal wars.
It's all that. It's all inward. It all starts within everything, and everything is reflected without. So, and actually, I just, as we were talking, I just felt to pull a card, and of course, I got dimensional gateway.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
I
Oh
just
my
pulled it
gosh.
out.
That's so
An
beautiful.
initiation, an invitation, actually, an invitation. Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah.
When I was studying archetypal astrology, I was lucky to study with some of the best teachers, practitioners, professors around the world. One of my professors said something that we're multidimensional people. It's archetypal, it's all about the
Yeah.
archetypes and different parts of self. And that was another moment of remembrance that that's what I'm here to teach, that's what I'm here to be. And that is a big part of this podcast and the work I'm doing and the work that Michelle's doing, that we are multidimensional souls, we're multidimensional people living in a multidimensional world. And how miraculous and beautiful that she just pulled a card on interdimensional gateway. We're here to open multiple other dimensions for you. And I feel that is so much affirmation that our guides are here, that they are guiding us. Yeah, I just feel so much gratitude.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful confirmation there. And it's also 33, which is also a powerful number of guides. Number 33, if you're into the numerology.
I'm very into the numerology. I feel I only see angel numbers now. I can't not see them. And
Yeah.
these numbers 11, 22, 33, 44, they're master numbers. They're angelic angel numbers. And three is really important. This is one thing we didn't get to touch on that maybe we can before we switch gears. Three in numerology represents sensitivity and expression. It's really about our emotions. And I know that's something that we talked about last week that we both are really tuning into. Speaking of astrology, yesterday was the Cancer new moon. Cancer is a water sign. It's all
Mhm.
about emotions, right? So we at the new moon we had the sun and moon conjunct together kissing in the sky in the sign of Cancer. We're in the whole month of Cancer. Jupiter is in Cancer with the sun and the moon. The way I did a beautiful reading and post about the summer solstice the other day on social. And really, what I feel this summer is about, and certainly Cancer season is about, when you have Jupiter, which is all about expansion, joy, joviality, growth, with the sun and the moon literally all kissing in the sky in Cancer with other beautiful aspects and elements, we're expanding through our ability to feel and the emotions. So I know we both were really tuning into that. If you want to share anything, we had talked about the emotions and the sacral center. I see it as the next step, the next frontier of our growth is about processing, understanding, feeling, being, embodying your emotions. So, anything you want to say about that?
Um, yeah, that's, why did we come in a physical, why did we come to a physical realm? Why did we come to a physical body? We came to feel, we came to experience, we came to feel all the emotions. So, it came very clearly through a session recently that was just spirit was like, yes, you came here to feel, you came here to feel the anger, the love, all the emotions from sadness to joy to bliss to anger to all of them. So that's part of the reason, we chose to come into this physical realm to experience the emotion, to feel them in our body. So, again, something we were also, a lot of us were shut down. Don't feel, don't cry, don't this, don't that. Again, we have to remember, okay, no, we're actually here to feel. We're actually here to experience emotion. I'm actually here to feel the sadness, and what do these emotions do? They open us up. Like when we have heartbreak, right? What does the heartbreak do? It opens our heart. Um, I recently lost a pet. And Spirit was like, "Yes, we need to open your." And I was like, "No," and I was like, "But Spirit was like, yes, but your heart is opening more. We need you to open your heart more." Even so, often these sad things, these tragedies that happen, they're here to break us open more, to feel more, to expand more. Um, crying is a very powerful cleansing tool that we have. We're meant to cry. We're meant to release. So we are here to experience all of it. I met a master many years ago in New York, and he, this always stuck in my head. He goes, "Are you here to participate in life or sit on the sidelines?" We came here to participate in life, to feel, to experience, to live. In all the with all the feelings, all the everything that we go through here as we expand.
Yeah, I love that. And that's what the journey from the head to the heart or just
Mhm.
into the heart is about, feeling. And the message I've received a lot is that it's safe to feel. I don't think I always felt that for obvious reasons, but that it is really safe to feel. And what I would add to that is it's not only safe to feel, but when we can and do feel our emotions, as you said, it's some of the most powerful alchemy we can experience in our bodies. When we cry, it's very alchemical. And so our ability, our capacity to feel opens us up to more, at least in my experience, opens us up to more love, more heart-centeredness, more power, more clarity. It clears our channel, right? It can be very clearing. So, yeah, I love everything you shared.
The last thing I'll say is our tears. It's water. It's a movement. It moves stuff. I mean, as human
Right,
beings, we're incredible. We're really incredible.
right, right. That flow, right? You're
Mhm.
actually moving something through you, the elements, the
Mhm.
matter. Again, the emotions, energy, and motion. So, We want to be moving. We want to be alive. So just wanted to check
Absolutely.
in. How are you
Mm,
feeling? Do you feel you want to connect with your guides, share with everyone a bit of the support we're receiving?
yeah. Absolutely. I guess, I'll just share also, yes, there's one of the things I studied is also was channeling, which was bringing spirit through. There's different forms of channeling. I believe we're all channels. One of the things that I do is bring spirit through me and I allow them to come through my voice. So this is all direct channeling. Um, so yeah, I will tune in and see if there's a message.
And maybe I can just add that not only was Michelle very critical and crucial for me in opening up my channel to connect with my guides, but I've also done a lot of one-on-one work with her over the years. And we've done healing work together. She's helped me connect to my higher self. And in those sessions at various times, not always, but at the various times, she has also channeled and brought in guidance for me. And it's been some of the most magical experiences I've had on this earth. So just to say that I'm very honored you're here. I'm very grateful that you're sharing your wisdom with everyone who's listening. And it's a really special treat to have you connect live with us and channel all these amazing energies and people and masters and guides that you've facilitated for me to connect with and brought into my life. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Really, it's so fun to have this conversation with you and to be here. And yes, I'm loving it. Yes, I'm going to tune in and see what message our guides have. And I often bring in a collective of guides, so it's not just my guides; it's the guide collective. So, but we'll see to come through. Mm. Well, thank you, Michelle, and thank you, Maxine, for inviting Michelle and us because we come along with her. And it really is an honor to speak with you today and speak with your people who are listening today. Um, so what to say? What to say? Yes, we are, you are, we are, because it is still part of us going through quite a time on the earth, quite a transition, quite a shift. And yes, from many perspectives, it is a very challenging shift, a difficult shift. But yes, there is the other side of it, which is that it's actually a beautiful shift, an expansive shift, and really a powerful, powerful time to be a human on Earth. If you choose to be part of this expansion, if you choose to be part of this shift, if you, again, it's all about choice. You all have free will. You chose to be on Earth at this time. And as human beings, you have free will. You were given free will, and that means you get to choose in every moment your perspective. You get to choose in every moment what you see, what you want to see, what you want to put your focus on. So we're just bringing this to your attention to remind you of this free will because it's very important at the time that you remember this, that you do get to choose. You do get to choose if you want to connect with us or not. You do get to choose whether you see that flower or you don't see the flower. And um, so we are just here to remind you and bring a frequency through right now of unconditional love and to bring in that energy to know that you are all loved unconditionally. We, as your guides, do not judge. We are not keeping score. We are here to really support you unconditionally, to remind you when we can, to send signs, to send little messages to you, and hope that you see them. Sometimes we send bigger messages so that you can see them, and sometimes you do, and sometimes you don't. That's okay. This is part of our job. But we are here really to be by your side through this process, to awaken you to more than your physical reality, and to help you through this really magical time of bringing heaven to earth, or experiencing heaven on earth, because it is already, as Michelle said, it's already there. You're already in heaven on earth. It's just a matter of opening your eyes to see it. And that can start in your imagination. It can start with your vision. Uh, so there are many things for you to do to start experiencing this heaven on earth. Maybe you have a question for us. I think.
Yes, I would love to hear more about this idea of us being unconditional love. Any guidance or wisdom about being in our heart space, especially during these times?
Mm. Well, your heart is your gateway. Yes. So anytime that you are feeling challenged, anytime that you are feeling fear, you must come back to your heart. This is your gateway to the different dimensions, back to love, back to peace. And much of this world right now is there's a lot of fear being projected in many different places around the world and in your everyday life. Um, But we always suggest that you come back to the heart space, come back to your breath, breathe into your heart, come back to your heart. Your heart is going to take you to a different experience each time. So mm, it is your key. It is your key to change. It is your key to shift. It is your key to come out of the mind. And when the mind is looping, when the fear is gripping, it is very important to remember to come back into the heart center, to breathe into the heart, come back into that unconditional love, and invite us in also to help you. Because sometimes it's hard to do it on your own. And again, this is why we are here, why today to remind you, to invite us in. And because you have free will, it's very important that you do invite us, because there's only so much we can do without your invitation, without you asking for our help, our guidance, our support. So we do remind you to ask for our help, to ask for us to come in, and we will bring in the energy of unconditional love. This is our energy. So you can access the unconditional love through us. We will bring that into you, into your heart, into yourself, and into your experience.
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
If you can give one piece of advice to everyone on Earth right now, what would it be?
A beautiful question. Mm. I think the answer is the same, is to remember your hearts. Remember that this is your gateway, is your key to all of it, to everything. To every day to take a moment to put your hands over your heart center. Maybe you want to do that right now. Place your hands over your heart center and feel your heart beating. Breathe into your heart. Feel the love. Feel our love. This is how this earth is going to change, only through love, not through hate. Through trust, not through fear. And to start trusting more that you are not alone. Start trusting more that you are guided. Start trusting more that there are powerful forces, divine forces here at the time to transmute the darkness. And that the darkness is there for a reason too. The darkness has to be there in order for the light to be seen.
Mm.
So we are here really, yes, to remind you that always come back to your heart. Always remember to to work through your heart, not through your mind. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, so beautiful. I feel that I'm in a love bubble of soft pink.
Yeah. And we are just bringing in this beautiful frequency right now for you to feel that, because it is a frequency. And Michelle brings through a frequency through her words, through her energy field. That's why we use her. That's exactly the right word. But
Well,
yes, so thank you. That's all for now, and we appreciate the invitation.
thank you so much. Hard to come out of that.
Yes, it is, and I actually felt very emotional. I think when you asked that question, something, like, yeah, well,
I was just thinking or feeling, I'm not sure which one, that we can talk all we want and teach as much theory as our intelligence or our mind wants or needs, but ultimately it is about the feeling, and it can be so simple. It can be just as simple as connecting with our heart.
it is. It really is. That's it. It's simple as that.
Well, thank you so much for blessing us up with all the frequencies and especially that channeling. As I shared, Michelle has been one of the most invaluable guides, teachers for me, very formative. And I highly recommend, if you feel called and connected, to follow up and work with her. She does have a wonderful class. I'll share a little bit about her course. She just wrapped teaching it, and she'll have another one coming up soon. Dates will be announced when the right people come forward. And that specific course is called High End Energetics. It's really about deepening on your spiritual path. It's a 12-week journey, all about expanding your consciousness, awakening your intuition, and aligning with your beautiful higher self. You'll hear a lot more from her in the course about our chakra system, the elements, more advanced chakras, and other powerful spiritual tools to help you really step into your purpose and live from your truth. And I can speak to that. It's a lot of what I received from her, the remembrance and the guidance. And otherwise, yeah, I'm going to link your details if people want to follow up about high-end energetics or one-on-one work. And I hope that this will be the first of many conversations in due time, and just really creating this frequency together, tapping into it. Sometimes we need friends, teachers, guides to remind us of what we already often know inside.
Absolutely, yes. And I just want to honor you, Maxine, because you have, since we met at that first class and we're having this conversation now. Wow, really, really amazing what you're doing and the work you're doing, work for women. And uh, I'm actually getting chills and really emotional about, how your expansion, wow, everything you're doing. So thank you so much. Really, it's been a beautiful conversation. Thank you for the invitation.
Amen. I'm sending so much love back to you from New York, and I can't wait to share this with everyone.
Thank you.